Welcome to the Wellness Jocks radio and podcast show where pro athletes and wellness experts interact about wellness and weight loss. Our host, Russ Allen, and our guests bring expert insights and practical tips to help you live your optimal life. Their insights and inspiration to motivate and enhance your wellness journey. Whether you're looking to shed a few pounds, maintain your fitness, or revitalize your overall well-being, Wellness Jocks is here to guide you every step of the way. Now, the host of Wellness Jocks, Russ Allen.
Hi, Josh.
Hey, how are ya?
Good. A few technical difficulties this morning. We're getting through it.
That's all right. That's all right. Life's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it is. I'm on a beach in Maui.
Well, lovely. I took my wife to Maui back in January. Well, I guess it was January of last year. Did you just turn 70?
I did last year, so I'm 71 now.
Okay. All right. Congratulations.
Thank you. And so appropriate, right, for being young.
That's right.
And so we're here with my son and my godson and my goddaughter all live in this little city called Kihei, which is part of Maui.
Okay.
Where did you go in Maui?
We were at the Hyatt Regency, right? Right on the Strip.
Yeah. No, that's right.
It was lovely.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I saw the video on your website, so I've got a good sense. But maybe you can share for our audience what the mission of Becoming Young is and what brought you and your partner to it, and we can kind of go from there.
Yeah, you bet. Absolutely. So, my whole journey, Russ, started, I guess it was before COVID. I was working for a private equity-backed company, had a big stock, contract for when they sold. I was busting my ass. And one day I was in the office and I thought I was having a heart attack. I had like this kind of like disconnected experience. And I thought, well, this is really strange because I'm pretty in shape, right? And it turned out I had an anxiety attack. And so that really caused me to take a minute and evaluate sort of what my priorities were, right? And that was in my late 30s. And I went on some medication and sort of didn't feel like myself. And I started doing some researching and I determined, there were a lot of things that I had control over that I didn't realize that I had control over. And that was sort of the beginning of my journey. I ended up taking myself off meds. By the way, I just want to clarify, it doesn't mean that I think meds are a bad thing, right? For me, they were an excellent step stool for me to get from one part of my journey to the next. And so I really started getting aware of my body and interested in how I was aging, right? Things were different. Here I was approaching my 40s. Now I'm 45.
Okay.
And over the next few years into COVID, I spent about 10,000 hours really diving deep into the cellular processes and how we are aging and all the research that's happening on a very high level at places like Stanford and Harvard and various laboratories and geroscience laboratories around the world. And during COVID, a buddy of mine and we ran 13 marathons. Everybody was sort of stuck at home, right? And so I don't know. It was probably too much. It was too much, but we were furloughed. And so I had a 4-day weekend every weekend for like 9 months, right? As everything was sort of shut down. Sure. And so I lived outside of Chicago. I went down to Chicago and I was sort of experimenting with my body in a new way, right? I had all this knowledge, what's going to happen with this 40-year-old. And so one day we went and we walked 26 miles and we were like, well, that was interesting. And I've always been a runner, never wanted to do any marathons. I just didn't have any desire. And I thought, well, that was interesting. Let's see if we can do it faster. And so we ended up doing 13 marathons in about 9 or 10 months. And ended up getting faster and faster and faster. But our goal, Russ, was to do these simply to finish and not be injured, right? Like that was our goal. And that really was the launching pad for Becoming Young and for this idea that, there's a lot that we don't know about our bodies. There's a lot that we've sort of been told about how we age and how we feel we should be as we're aging. And you're just, you're 71, how this is all kind of netting out, which is we don't have to feel the way that we've been told. And a lot of times, and I are coaching a lot of folks and really trying to educate people with personalized plans on how they can age feeling younger. And that's really the mission of Becoming Young, is to really help folks have an individualized approach to understanding their body, understanding medicine, understanding evidence-based approaches to getting older in a way that is vibrant and healthy.
I studied exercise physiology and psychology at UC Berkeley as a college student. The linkage that I see most often not understood and poorly articulated is the mental state and its impact on the physical state. And it's interesting, you kind of got into this based on really what was your mental state. It brought you to an awareness of your physical state and how that was impacting your physical state, which is, I'd love for you to kind of expand on that, and I'll add some thoughts as we go.
Yeah, well, thank you for calling that out. I mean, I think that is something that I wasn't very aware of
Right.
earlier on, but there obviously is very much interplay between the mind and the body and the nervous system and the gut mind connection and all the different things that are at play. It was very important for me as I started opening my mind, and I don't mean to say, to sound kind of woo woo when I say that, but to be just open to what that experience was as I started becoming more aware of what was happening in my own body, right? A lot of us go to the doctor, we sort of say, I'm feeling this pain, tell me what to do. And we've disconnected sort of what's happening in our body with what the outcome is. And that was something that became very important. And it's something that I coach all of my clients on. And so when we talk about doing a deep dive on somebody's current health state and putting together a plan on how to help them age younger, which I know is a little bit kitschy, right? Because we're not actually turning back the clock. What we're doing is we're making you feel how you should feel for your age, which is, it's like turning back the clock. But it is such an important mind-body connection, and to keep that mental state open to maybe having different opinions about things, experiencing different things, just like you would go to a restaurant, right? And maybe order something off a menu that might be a little bit outside your comfort zone. It's just as important that you have that sort of flexibility, right? When you're doing a new exercise or maybe changing up your sleep habits or any of those kinds of things. So that's something that's really important and something that's a core foundational element as we coach.
Well, that's really interesting. I got into this wellness world as in my mid 50s, had a heart attack, and decided I was either going to get serious about it or it was going to get serious about me. Right. And I think this is really poorly fully understood. I mean, so coaching, where I'm going with this is coaching is such a fundamental asset that you can bring into the equation. I ran for about 10 years a wellness program for the NFL alumni. And I, for 5 years, coached a lot of our former NFL players in weight loss because, as typical athletes who get away from their game eat as if they still played the game but didn't have the activity to match it. So they, the ones who were successful to be able to shift typically, never stopped working out is what they ended up doing. And then they ratcheted back what they needed to calorically. A lot of guys, particularly linemen, and surprisingly, a lot of running backs didn't do that. The linemen just were used to eating a lot because that's what they had to do. One of my dearest friends is Bart Oates, who was a center for the New York Giants and 49ers and won 3 Super Bowl rings, in his tenure. And Bart had to eat 12,000 calories a day to maintain the 290 pounds he had to carry to be a center in the NFL. Reality is he fought to do that. So when he ratcheted back after his career, kept up his exercise, he lost his weight pretty naturally. Whereas a lot of guys, they get into that position because they're big in the first place. and then you get on the line, right? And so, what we know is that in aging and becoming young is all about that. Weight is the single most important variable to control the 200 plus co- chronic conditions that result from being overweight or obese. I mean, and so that is something that people kind of see. And yeah, I'm carrying 50 pounds. No, you're damaging your organs, and you're ratcheting back your ability to have great activity. Or you go ahead and have great activity, and then you're damaging yourself because you're carrying too much weight in that. And so that's something I hope is a core part of what you train people to do, because they have to get control of that variable. And, 50% of cancers with people under 60 are directly correlated. They don't say causal, but they say correlated to obesity. And I could just keep going, heart disease, stroke, you name it.
Oh,
Um,
it is a risk factor for basically. I mean, the list is so long, right? And it's too bad. So funny, quick story. So back in 1999, this is going to date me a minute. I interned for Brian McCaskey at the Chicago Bears training camp up in
very
Platteville.
cool.
And
Very
so
cool.
for anybody who doesn't know, when Russ is talking about how much food these guys eat, I was in charge of handing out the training camp paychecks, right? So I was a popular dude. I mean, I was like 20, I was like 19 or 20, but I was a
Wow.
popular guy. But these guys would come over with their trays of food, right, for breakfast and lunch.
Yeah.
And it was, and I've got a bunch of kids, so I've seen teenager, and it is unlike anything you've ever seen. It is trays, cafeteria trays piled with food. And even back then, people, there's a lot of great food options, but it just, the sheer quantity to be able to get that many calories in it's mind blowing.
It is. Yeah. And unhealthy. And,
Yeah.
obviously the whole experience in the NFL is, for most guys, a very short period of their
Yeah.
life. And unfortunately, most of them come out with injuries that they carry the remainder of their life. Good buddy is Otis Anderson, who Otis was the MVP for Super Bowl 25. Otis was Rookie of the Year and Comeback Player of the Year 10 years later, and played for the Giants. And Otis, was a ripped stud, and was one of the first big backs in the NFL. And he 10,000 yards. I mean, amazing guy. But he came out, and we were filming the first wellness expo, or wellness, sorry, challenge we did with the NFL guys. And Otis learned in the conversation with the physician we had that he had damaged his pancreas. And that was something he has to live with the rest of his life, because you don't regain that function. And so now, of course, he's treating his diabetes, and he's aware of it. And the last time I was with Otis when we were eating, he was so careful as to what he was putting in his stomach. I could see it. It had nothing to do with me sitting there. He had made the decision in his life. He was not going out from diabetes. And this is something that people, again, it's one of the main, causes. One of the type 2 diabetes is the number one curable disease for obesity. So, the program we were doing was sponsored by one of these obesity drugs, and thankful for them. The reality is those obesity drugs have their own side effects, and people don't realize when you lose weight, you lose as much muscle as you do fat. So even though they're helpful, just the point you made about your own medication, it's not bad. It's good. But if it gets you on the track and starts you
That's right.
going,
That's right.
don't make that the solution. Make the change in your lifestyle and your growth of your awareness the solution, and that will sustain you, because you have to change your diet. But the diet starts here, not here. You
Yeah.
have to make that mental change. I'd love for you to go into how you coach people about that, and how that's part of what you do.
Yeah, I always like recounting. I don't know if you're a Seinfeld fan, but there was a Seinfeld episode of
Big time.
when when George, George, who was the biggest Luddite probably ever, right? And George decided he was going to start going out at night, and George realized that he loved staying out late, right? And then he came the next morning and he was exhausted from staying out until the wee hours of the morning, and he said, "Jerry, night George is stealing from day George," right? And that's really sort of where I like to start talking with folks, because this idea of maintaining your health is a bit of a masochistic journey, right? Because while you will feel some of that win and some of that benefit today, this is a long investment. You're doing a lot of work today to realize something that's not going to actually realize until 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the road. And most people have a lot of trouble. I'm a freak show. So I have a very strange ability for myself. And that's why my journey kind of progressed the way it did, to be able to visualize where I want to be at 100 and pull that back, right? Most people don't want to do that. They have a hard time thinking about what they're doing on Saturday night, let alone, in 20 years. And so I talk my clients through, okay, what do we want to be doing when we're 80, 90, or maybe even 100, if you're blessed to live that long, right? What do you want to be able to do then? And that could be as simple as picking up your grandchild. It could be bringing your own groceries in from the car, right? Let's decide what those things are, and then let's work backwards. So if you want to be able to do those when you're 90, right? Walk up a flight of stairs. Well, what do you need to be able to do when you're 80? What do you need to be able to do when you're 70? And sort of really visualize that in a way that makes it a lot more practical, instead of just sort of talking about this in a way that's, hey, you just need to be in the best shape, right? Because that's not like a lot. That's very difficult to actually put into action. So we want to put things into action. We want to be able to have a plan, and we want it to be fun, because at the end of the day, if you're not motivated, right? I mean, this because you work with a lot of high-end athletes and talk with them. Motivation follows action, right? So we need to be able to put a plan in place that's going to be active and fun, so that we can have the motivation attached to that. And then we get all those little dopamine hits and all those things that will, spur us into those long-term habits. But I will tell you that it is not easy for everyone, right? That a lot of folks need that encouragement. No one is perfect. Not even me, who, is a top 2%er, right, in my field as far as the type of shape that I'm in. I will tell you that I had a shoulder. I ripped my tricep tendon back in July, and it's been nagging. And I lift 4 days a week heavy, right? I do a lot of cardio. I eat super clean, and December was a bust for me personally, right? And I had to fight through a lot of my own mental demons, right? Because for me, not being at the top of my game takes away my motivation for going to the gym. So all of us have the struggle of giving ourselves grace, right? And being able to understand that none of us are perfect, and that's okay. And, if today's not the day, then we need to get back up tomorrow, and we need to do it again tomorrow. And that's okay. And so
not everyone else is an athlete. Fundamentally, you have you're an A type to start with. You've expressed that in your athletic endeavor. Not everybody's there, and they're not going to become that. So
and that's okay.
No, but I like where you're going. Is that the more you can visualize where you want to be at 80 years old, and I think that's a realistic number for people in their 60s.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to be, in a convalescent home, with somebody wiping your, whatever, right? Not really. No, and okay. So then if you don't put money in the bank today, you're not going to have it to live on then.
You got it.
That's right. People understand that. And that kind of daily habits. Now, interesting. My wife is 74. She's a cougar, right?
I love that.
Kay, she retired at 70, and literally a week later got a phone call from our doctor saying, you have a brain tumor. And she turned out to not be cancerous, but something the size of a golf ball in your head is a problem. So I had it removed. And now she is just so inspired me, because she every day does her, her Wordle or crossword, and then she walks 3 to 4 miles. And that's her athletic ability. Now, she's not going to run a marathon. Now, she had a sister she's from New Zealand. She had a sister at 68, Lois, who ran a marathon the first time in her life with her 50-year-old daughter, right? And my daughter-in-law the next year ran her first marathon with my grandson, Ben, in her belly, right? So those people are exceptional. To your point, about 2% of people are in that category. The rest of us, it's just not where we're going to ever be. So, but the same life changes, the same habit, the same mental attitude, and the same sustaining our motivation. And I will tell you, there's been studies done, not a lot of them, but the reality is your chances of losing weight with a coach are dramatically enhanced. I mean, like 9 out of 10 versus 1 out of 10.
You're listening to Wellness Jocks radio and podcast show. We'll be right back after the short break.
Are you on a weight loss journey and wondering if you're losing more than just pounds? At WellWeight, we know that weight loss isn't just about the scale. It's about your body composition. Did you know that popular weight loss medications, like GLP-1s, can result in significant muscle loss? While these medications may help you shed pounds, they can also reduce your strength and vitality. That's why understanding your body's unique makeup is essential. WellWeight helps you discover your ideal weight by focusing on what truly matters: your health, your composition, and your long-term goals. With cutting-edge insights and personalized tools, WellWeight empowers you to achieve sustainable results without compromising muscle or health. Take control of your journey today. Visit wellweight.com to learn how you can balance weight loss with muscle preservation and feel your best, inside and out. WellWeight. Transform your weight loss journey with knowledge and confidence.
Are you ready to take control of your health and tackle obesity head-on? At Tackle Obesity, we believe that with the right guidance and support, you can achieve your weight loss goals and lead a healthier, more fulfilling life. Our mission is to dramatically boost your odds of success by connecting you to a coach. With a dedicated coach by your side, you'll receive personalized guidance tailored to your unique needs, helping you make sustainable lifestyle changes. At Tackle Obesity, we emphasize setting realistic goals, making small, manageable changes to your diet and exercise routine, and being patient with yourself throughout the journey. Our community is here to support you every step of the way, offering motivation, inspiration, and accountability. Don't wait to start your transformation. Visit tackleobesity.com today to find your coach and join a community dedicated to helping you succeed. Together, we can tackle obesity and pave the way for a healthier future. Tackle Obesity, empowering you to achieve lasting health and wellness.
At Optimal Age, we believe that aging is a journey to be embraced, not a destination to be feared. Our mission is to enhance the health and well-being of seniors by offering a comprehensive range of specialized services tailored to meet your unique needs. Our offerings include J-Plasma Skin Tightening, a minimally invasive treatment that rejuvenates your skin, helping you look and feel younger. Regenerative medicine, innovative therapies designed to restore health and vitality, addressing various conditions to improve your quality of life. Cognitive renewal therapy, comprehensive programs aimed at enhancing memory, attention, and cognitive skills, supporting mental sharpness as you age. Advanced diagnostics, thorough assessments to identify health concerns early, allowing for personalized treatment plans. Age optimization treatments, customized approaches to help you maintain optimal health and independence. At Optimal Age, we envision a future where seniors are empowered to live their best lives, staying healthy, independent, and connected. Our dedicated team is here to support you every step of the way. Embrace the journey of aging with confidence and grace. Visit OptimalAge.com to learn more about how we can help you achieve your health and wellness goals. Optimal Age, enhancing the health and well-being of seniors.
Are you on a weight loss journey and wondering if you're losing more than just pounds? At WellWeight, We know that weight loss isn't just about the scale, it's about your body composition. Did you know that popular weight loss medications, like GLP-1s, can result in significant muscle loss? While these medications may help you shed pounds, they can also reduce your strength and vitality. That's why understanding your body's unique makeup is essential. Well Weight helps you discover your ideal weight by focusing on what truly matters: your health, your composition, and your long-term goals. With cutting-edge insights and personalized tools, Well Weight empowers you to achieve sustainable results without compromising muscle or health. Take control of your journey today. Visit wellweight.com to learn how you can balance weight loss with muscle preservation and feel your best, inside and out. Well Weight. Transform your weight loss journey with knowledge and confidence.
To hold ourselves accountable is such a difficult thing.
Oh, it's
So,
incredible. It's incredibly difficult. And not only that, but if you look at the way that we get inside our own head, right?
yeah,
We are our own worst enemy. So taking that out of the equation, or at least minimizing how we can rationalize and do all of those other things, really it's a powerful, powerful tool.
yeah, no, it is, and it's essential. But see, to me, it's even more. It's essential. In other words, your odds so increase. Look, the way my guys put it is, look, even Michael Jordan had a coach.
That's right.
You think
Absolutely.
Michael, his father, and then his, at North Carolina. So all those people made Michael Michael. It wasn't just his own will and his own, God-given talent. He was trained, and so when you look at life that way, whether it be someone like yourself who's a professional in this and who's devoted themselves to a career helping others doing it, or someone in your life who simply mentors you and holds you accountable. The key there is accountability. Without accountability, you cannot manage what you do not measure. Peter Drucker, 1.0, right?
Yep.
If you don't have someone to hold you accountable, the likelihood of you progressing is very low. And so, what I would encourage everyone to hear is the value of having a coach. They're so crucial because, and again, not a coach for a week. It is a means by which you sustain your motivation, your attitude, your focus into years. And I, Josh, I would just say to our audience, this is the kind of, support that is essential. It's not nice to have. If you're going to be successful in life, it used to be in business, you always looked, there was this whole period of time, find a mentor.
Right.
Well, that's really
right.
a coach. It's
Yeah.
really a coach. And, they take away the blinders and say, this is the real potential, right? And that's what you're doing. You're taking away those blinders, saying, oh, this is me, I'm fat, I'm old, I'm slow, I'm whatever, and saying, no, this is your potential. And let me help you see that potential day by day, and then push you and urge you and support you in that process. So, I think that's really powerful. That what do you do with an executive? Somebody's a, high-powered, high-pressured executive who's, just, because that is the archetype of somebody who kills himself at work.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's a couple different things, right? I think the one thing that I would mention first is this idea of maintaining health, right, in functional medicine and longevity. If anybody's seen, Brian Johnson, who's, experimenting on himself, to the tune of $2 million a year or whatever it is, this field of keeping us as young as possible for as long as possible has accelerated in the last couple of years, right? That we understand more than we ever have about how the body ages. We have access to an ever-growing number of molecules and new biomarkers and blood tests to be able to measure how we're doing. And so for somebody who's an executive, Russ, I like to look at things sort of in two separate fields, right? The first is, okay, let's call it traditional fitness, right? How are we optimizing? Because they have a busy schedule. These guys don't have time to, spend I'm spending 2 hours a day working out. Those guys don't spend 2 hours a day, right? So how do we optimize something for them that's enjoyable, that can fit in their schedule, that is going to be repeatable and sustainable, right? That they're going to have satisfaction in order to get them to whatever the goal is as far as a fitness. So that's kind of the first level, right? And
Mhm.
that is going to focus a lot on strength training, because as we age, we lose that muscle if we don't lose it. And we used to think that we just simply lost muscle as we age. The evidence is really showing that it's probably correlative, not causative. So we're losing muscle as we age, most likely because we're moving less and we are working less than we did when we were younger. And so we want to keep that. And we talked about the type 2 diabetes earlier. The more muscle mass we have, the less likely you are to have. So there's a lot of really good stuff there. That's the first half of the equation. The second half of the equation is, okay, once we're doing all those things, the cardio's in line, the diet's in line, the lifting is in line, how do we now take and optimize the insides? So what are we doing? We're doing blood work. How are we looking at supplementation? How are we looking at some of the things? I've got guys who are biohackers, right? Some of these guys who really want to kind of be in that top 2, 3, 4%. And so we look at whether we're doing peptides or whether we're working with a functional doctor on hormones or those kinds of things, right? So there are a lot of different things, but I believe in a holistic approach. And I also believe that if you're not doing the work to get yourself in line with the diet, exercise, sleep, and all that kind of stuff, then nothing else really matters, right? Because those are the biggest levers that we can pull to keep ourselves young. And I always tell clients, right? Like 80-year-old Josh is going to thank 45-year-old Josh, right? He's going to be like, I know that was a pain in the ass. I'll tell you, Ross, I sit in my car some days before going into the gym, right? To really zone in, because I don't feel like doing it. And I'll tell you, 9.5 out of 10 times I come out of there, if not 10 out of 10, I come out of the gym feeling so glad that I went in, because I know that I feel stronger. I feel more vibrant. I feel like I can conquer the world, right? So I like to take those kinds of feelings and infuse the plans we put together for our executives. And that's really where that works in perfectly, because, I love the fact that you mentioned about investing for retirement, because I use that analogy a lot. Anyone who is working their butt off in order to put money in their 401k or their retirement understands the value of hiring a financial planner or working with somebody who really is an expert at what they're doing in order to maintain that net worth. Most people aren't investing on their own. Some are, cool. But the same goes for our health. And ironically, do you want to spend that money to regain your health later on? Because that's what ends up happening, right? You spend all this time working, you save all your money, and then you end up having to spend it to regain the health that you had in the first place. And so the plans I put together for my executives are for them to maintain that health so that they can hold on to that wealth.
Yeah, well, that's the other part is that you need to have a game plan if you have an episode or some disease, some sickness that you have to recover from. And that is typically where people, again, they lose it. The number of people who break a hip and then die within 2 years is a scary number.
Oh,
The number of people whose
it's
spouse
50%,
dies,
it's over 50%, I believe.
that's the point, is that it is a cataclysmic event that then foreshadows the end of it all, right? And again, I think, the more people understand that look, to your point, nobody's getting out of here alive, as my buddy Keith would say, right?
That's right. But
we want to live the healthiest, fullest life and the most active and so on. So, and the other part of it is that frankly, our example affects our family very directly.
Absolutely.
We have 4 children and 5 grandchildren now, and then god grandchildren and so on. So I know what Grandpa does. I'm getting tracked.
That's
by
right.
my kids and by their kids, and what is he doing? And that's really powerful, because it's a two-sided thing. One is you get a great feeling from what you're doing, but if you also see that you're benefiting those you love by taking care of yourself, man, the last thing I want to do is be a burden on my family. And if you have a
Yeah.
stroke or if you are crippled because of heart disease or whatever, you become inevitably a responsibility your family has to address. And if your family is close and connected, it's a burden, and you don't want that. And so you're doing it for more than yourself. That's where I'm going. Is if you only think, oh, I'm just doing that for me, not very powerful. But if you're thinking, oh, but I want to affect every person I know and love because they can see what I'm taking responsibility for and doing, that's a very much a bigger picture. And for people who are highly successful, they need to see that big picture. If they're not just totally in, they're onto their own thing, but they're instead, and as you get older, typically you start looking past, just what are you getting out of it today? At this stage of my life, I tell people I go to work to make a difference, not a living. We were able to save some money and so on, but even this podcast is something that I do out of real commitment to try to get this message out there and support people like Josh to be able to edify what you're doing, because it is a very powerful and very valuable thing.
Appreciate that. I mean, the thing that's real interesting. So, Russ, if I told you you had an 80% chance of winning the lottery, you'd play, right? So, right, we have an 80% control over the way that our genes are expressing, and basically, this is a little bit of a loaded statement, but we have 80% control over how we age, if you want to take it that way. And so, I mean, those are amazing odds, and it takes a little bit of effort, but that is something, when you talk about kind of the purpose. So I spent 25 years in marketing. I've done a lot of stuff, right? I worked on pizza brands and dancewear, LA shoes and tutus and all kinds of different stuff. The reason I do this, Russ, is because I get up every day feeling like $1 million, right?
Yeah.
And I feel bad. I haven't had that. That's not the punchline. The punchline is I feel bad that other people don't know what it's like to feel as good as I feel.
Yeah.
Right? And I play in the Midwest. I don't know if you're familiar with paddle tennis. So there's racquetball. Okay, there's racquetball, and then there's pickle, which is all the rage, right? And then there's paddle tennis, which is played on this raised aluminum court, and you play it all winter long. And the aluminum court's heated, so in Chicago they melt the snow on this thing. So I belong to this racket club, tennis club, and I play with a lot of guys who are in their 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and I'm constantly getting exposed to these guys, kind of groaning when they get up and they're holding their back and they talk about their hips and their knees. And, I bite my tongue a lot of the time because I don't really want to make them feel bad, but the guys that I really know, I will, I'll rib them a little bit, and they're sort of responsible for feeling what they are, but they don't have to feel that way. Right. They actually don't. And there's varying levels of how much effort you want to put in to kind of correct that stuff. But it's amazing because everybody just sort of feels like this is the way that you're supposed to age. You get older and, you have trouble getting out of bed, and it takes you 30 minutes to kind of feel locked in the morning. And when we really get our executives, and these are folks who are in their 50s, 60s, and 70s, when we get them locked in, that sort of starts melting away. Right. They get up in the morning, they feel refreshed. They're not having to feel like they're stiff getting out of bed. It doesn't mean there's no cure all. There's no pill here. Nobody's, giving you a shot in the butt that's going to make you feel great for the next 20 years. But the rate at which we're able to improve the way that everybody is feeling and their vibrancy on a day-to-day basis is pretty astounding. And it's being personal, right? It's because the plan we're putting together for you, Russ, is going to be fundamentally different than the plan I'm putting together for anybody else. Your body's different, your lifestyle's different, your blood work's different, right? Your goals are different. And so that personalized approach is super important.
Well, those are great points. Everybody is so unique. There's a great book. It's called Genie in Your Genes. And it's a good primer for, kind of the public about epigenetics. And that, for me, I've given out 50 of these books now because it's by a guy, Dawson Church, who is a PhD and a well-cited book, but it's really written for the everyman. And it looks at how our bodies are affected by gene expression and how our metabolic processes are affected by gene expression. And again, attitude, your mental state directly, it's not woo woo, Josh, it is science that your body will, if your mental state affects the way your genes express, they will have a different metabolic cascade as a result. So, it is think and grow rich. Well, it's also thinking and stay young as you grow old. Fundamentally, we're all going, but we want to find ways, strategies. And why I love doing this podcast is I love learning about, what can be done. And, obviously I've been around the whole anti-aging movement for 15 years now, gone to A4M and AMG and so on and met, all the principal speakers and so on. And, things happen in your life that you have to recover from.
That's right.
Right. And, I bought the domain Wellness Crash Dummy because so many things have gone wrong in my life physically to me. I could just take up the podcast with it. Point being, I've just persevered through each one of them. And, backstory on Russ, my mom had polio in 51 and took a year to regain her ability to move her legs.
Oh.
And then she got pregnant and had me. So I'm directly result of someone who overcame a disability. So in college, I had done volunteer work at a hospital that was part of UC Berkeley. And in my junior year, I ended up moving in with 2 students, but they both had quadriplegia. They had both broken their necks in a trauma. And, I was thinking of going into medicine and physical therapy and all that. And I thought, well, if I'm going to do that, I need to have perspective on what a person with that extent of a disability has to live with. Is life worth living? Because when I started to live with them, some people I knew said, if that happened to me, I just end it. Right. And was like, okay. And I got to know them and they had the same hopes and dreams I did. They wanted a family, they wanted a career. And again, level 5 neck break, level 4 neck break, you are severely disabled. And so one of the things I'm working on is with a group of physicians, we're launching the Wellness Institute, which will specifically look for treatments that can improve the quality of life of people who are living with neurological conditions, whether it be spinal cord injury or a TBI or any one of a number of maladies. And the reality is we all have that to some degree as we age. Things slow down. You don't think the same. So the question is, do you succumb to it? Or do you instead just realize you have to ratchet it up in the areas where your body or your brain is now fighting for what we would call homeostasis, fighting for balance, right? And, what I would say is people, they look for the silver bullet, right? Oh, peptide or this or HR, and all those are beneficial, but the silver bullet, it's what you're teaching people to do, Josh, is have the mental attitude and frame of mind that allows them to take on whatever comes at them in life, because something's coming, right? And then be able to strategically overcome it, balance it, manage it, and then, get on with living. Because if the minute you don't, you begin to feel a victim, begin to feel, yeah.
Absolutely. And so my goal, Russ, for myself is to live to 120 healthy, right? And
Sure.
and I chuckle because whether or not I make it there, I'm not quite sure. But I'm going to be dependent, right, on some advancements in medicine. And so a lot of people that I talk to, they say, oh, 120, I can't even think of living to 95, right? Because I don't want to be, stuck in a wheelchair in the corner, right? And I will tell you, I did a podcast, which we haven't released yet, with Aubrey de Grey, who's arguably the number one geroscientist in the world. He's California, but he's a fantastic. He's got a huge beard, right? He was the Methuselah Foundation, yeah. So there is a lot on the horizon that is imminent's probably not the right word, but I think we are in a state of potential real acceleration around being able to keep our bodies healthy in a whole other way. And so, the question is, where do you want to be? If we paused your health, at a given moment, do you want to be as healthy as you are today? Because you're never going to be as healthy as you were yesterday. Right. And so, I mean, most people, but we can turn that clock back. We can make you healthier than you were.
Yes.
So that way, when we get to that point, and so that's sort of, for the people who like to think a little bit outside the box.
Yep.
And because I've got a blended family, Russ. So I've got 6 kids. I've got a Brady bunch, 4
Nice.
boys and 2 girls, 4 boys and 2 girls. I've got a couple adult kids and 2 in high school, 2 in junior high, and 1 in elementary school. So busy guy.
I've been working for a while.
I'll be working till I'm dead. And the fact of the matter is, I want as much time with them as possible. And I don't think, in fact, I know from the conversations I've had over the last 45 years that I'm not alone. That is something that everybody wants. Everybody wants more time with their family. And so that is really at a core of what I am hoping to provide for my clients, right? More healthy time to spend with their loved ones, to spend on the beach in Maui, right? To spend at the grandkids choir concert or your kids, play. I mean, at the end of the day, yes, I want to help high achievers, be better with their private equity exit, right? Sure, absolutely. But who's going to remember that? Not a lot of people probably will remember if you sold a company for 6x, but people will remember if you showed up for your family. They will remember the kind of person that you were for your friends. They will remember how you took care of people. And so being able to be healthy in body and healthy in mind as you age will allow you to be there as long as possible.
Yeah. Well, that's really, you got to get up to make a difference.
Right.
Not a living. And it is the degree to which you have that kind of perspective, you're going to be either happy or not,
Right.
And, you look at somebody like Warren Buffett. I mean, what drives that guy, right? How in the world has this man sustained that life, the extent that he has, And, he loves McDonald's. I don't know what the deal with him and Trump is. What's with McDonald's? So it's clearly something else happens in them that drives the metabolic process. And what I would say is, the more we can learn about that, then the more we're empowered to make our life work. And I think so much that having people who help encourage, sustain, and reframe, because what you're doing ultimately, is reframing your view on life and investing in ways that people. One of my favorite ball players, a guy named Russell Wilson. I was born in Seattle, so a short guy named Russell from Seattle. I don't know why I like the guy, right? But he invests about $1.5 million a year into a career where he makes $20 million a year. So the same applies to executives. And again, if you're a winner, you don't want to stop winning. What drives guys like Elon, right? I mean, you don't have enough money, right? The answer is, of course he does. But he also has this infinite creative potential that he just wants to express every minute. And, we all have that. It isn't, and again, it all doesn't have to be in business. It can be, in our investing in our community, in our family, in others, but it is finding that within you that is able to express each day, more and more, that nourishes and give life to the others. And I think we're headed to an age very quickly where making a living is not going to really be the deal. We are, between robots and AI, so much of the grunge work of what we call work, I don't know if we're going to have to, address that, So the only way to not pollute the cosmos with all of it is for us to grow within us. I'm a big guy on the conscience, right? I firmly believe the purpose of this physical life is to grow your conscience, because then, whatever's to in the future, you will have the wherewithal to control yourself in a dimension that thoughts create reality. And so what you'll learn through epigenetics is thoughts do create a reality. Your physical state is directly impacted in many ways by your mental state, which is everything you're saying, Josh. And the thing is that there's a delay, and that's what fools people, is that
Right.
there's always a delay between, I thought, well, in the next dimension, there ain't going to be no delay. It's just like, bam. So you got to be ready for that. And so, the encouraging thing is we got guys like you out there who are making a difference and who've taken the life lessons you came away with, in a commercial activity, and now we're investing in others in a way that can really benefit not only them, but their families. And that's truly inspiring.
No, I appreciate that.
Well, listen, I appreciate you coming on today. This is my opening. The background, by the way, of Wellness Jocks is at the Los Angeles Super Bowl, I met a guy named Richard Walker. Now, Richard at that point weighed 425 pounds, right? 6'6". He had tried for he was a pro ball player, but in the Arena League for 9 years. Never made it to the NFL, but he knew more about the sport of football and sports in general than, 99% of the guys who were playing the game at that level. And Richard and I became dear friends. And I explained to him the work I was doing with the NFL alumni and said, he said, well, listen, I've met the girl of my dreams and, I want to lose the weight. So I coached him and ultimately lost 145 pounds. Sadly, Richard passed away in November. We had formed this business partnership called the Wellness Jocks. And so I always want to reach out to Richard because, he, as far as I'm concerned, he's still around. He's where I'm going. And he, to me, was a tremendous inspiration and to everyone who knew him. And so what I can say is there are probably things that in retrospect, from a medical standpoint, because again, this year I went through an open heart surgery.
Oh, wow.
And so I'm in Maui working on Russell to come back from what is, we talk about, you getting kicked in the, whatever, right?
Yeah.
That's what I'm doing. And what you can see, of course, is it is an attitude thing. You got to want it, and you got to want it until you don't have it. So I don't know what makes us that way, Josh, but we're that way. And, obviously I'm not a 2% athlete. My joke was I played left out in high school football. I was short, slow, the whole deal. And they said, Alan, there's the bench, right? But I had the heart of Rudy. I just love the game and I love the experience. And I will tell you, the most valuable thing of football is that young men, it's so formative for our character. It has nothing to do with winning games or, a house of cheerleaders, right? It is who you become because you learn how to sacrifice for the team. You learn how to work as a unit, learn all those things.
Yep.
And, there's few sports that do that for you, and so however football continues to evolve and what's interesting is it's moving very quickly into flag football. People love flag football and and for young people, particularly, it is a safe way to play the game. And again, they learn much of the same things, not everything, but, and then if they go into a contact version of the sport, they've got a lot of the fundamentals,
Sure.
And I laud the NFL for bringing this to the fore, and now it's going to be an Olympic event in 28. And so, I encourage people that if they kids have the itch, that's the way to scratch it. Get out there and play some flag. And for adults now, they're doing it as well. So, and it is a profoundly inspiring experience to be a part of a team, go out and face the other team and win. And girls are the bigger part of flag football than boys, interestingly enough. So, I love what you're doing, and I'd love to have your partner on at some point. And maybe have my wife on and we can kind of dig deeper on the feminine side of
absolutely. Well, that's that's something that I'm particularly passionate about. I mean, not to start a whole other topic, but I will just but I will just say that women's health perimenopause, menopause there's been a resurgence in the last 12 months on really focusing in on how hormones play such a ginormous role, which they do for everyone, by the way.
Yeah.
But, in this male driven, system that we've had for so many, decades and decades and decades, it has really re-emerged as something that we really need to pay attention to. And so I am particularly passionate about helping female clients as well. I have several female clients that are in this stage of life, because the fact of the matter is that as you age, it is fun. Not only are we different individually, but we are different, as our biological entity, right? And so, yeah, I would love that, because I think there's a lot to talk about. And I regularly I've got, functional medicine doctors and stem cell doctors and all these guys in my back pocket that I'm talking to on a regular basis. And that's part of what I share with my clients, right? I distill that information down. I super dork out about that. So I'll talk for 60, 90 minutes. I'll get all kinds of information. And then I like taking and kind of disseminating that out to clients in a way that's understandable, because most folks don't want to read a medical textbook. I find it fascinating, but most people don't. So,
well, I can geek out with you. The latest thing is placental-derived plasma arrays. And we can do a whole just podcast on that, because it's the next generation of regenerative medicine. And it is really, really milking a healthy placenta for all of the regenerative, or in that case, generative nutrients that it gives to the fetus to bring it to life. So something to talk about next time.
Absolutely.
And we'll circle back, Josh, and make that happen.
Well, if any of your listeners are interested in learning more, they can find me at becomingyoung.io. It's just like it sounds. And Russ, I'm totally happy to do a free complimentary coaching session for anybody who's, would like to learn more, to talk about what are their struggles, and help them come up with a plan. Happy to do that as well.
Awesome. Well, listen, we'll have a business conversation, circle back later on a one-on-one.
You bet.
All right. All the best, guy.
All right. Thanks, man.
All right.
You've been listening to Wellness Jocks radio and podcast show. Thanks for making your health the priority. We're here to support you every step of the way on your wellness journey. Take care, grow strong. Meet you next time with Russ and our guests here on the Wellness Jocks radio and podcast show. Keep pushing forward. You've got this.